Hi class, we're going to be doing the color wheel today. Usually we would do it with acrylic paint, but at home today we're going to be doing it with watercolor. So grab your handout, grab your watercolor, some brushes, a cup of water. If you want to do it with the acrylics you can, but we're going to do it on this video with watercolors. So first go ahead and wet your brush and then dip it into the color that you want to choose. I'm going to do the three primary colors first. So I'm starting here with red. I'm doing the edges and then kind of filling in the center. You can always rotate the paper so that your brush is going at a perpendicular direction towards the edge. It kind of helps you with control. So before I went into my yellow, I wanted to make sure I washed my brush, so I dipped it in the water, kind of got all the paint off, and then as an extra precaution, I wipe it on a paper towel just to make sure that I have all the color off before I go into the next color. So now we're doing blue. This blue in this watercolor is really, really vibrant. Doesn't matter what color you have. If you have a different watercolor palette and it comes out a little bit different, that's okay. Look at me, I just smudged the red by wiping my hand in it, but it's okay. I'm going to go back and fix that later. Alright, we started with the primaries and we're doing the secondary colors next so that we are working with areas that are not touching the other wet paint from before. And all those colors were already mixed in your palette if you have the same one. So I waited about an hour and now I'm mixing blue-green because I'm going to put that in between the blue and the green, and I wanted to make sure that both of those colors had some time to dry before I went in so that the color didn't bleed in between. So I did blue-green. Now I'm going to do the kind of lime green, the yellow green. And do you notice that I'm washing my brush in between each time that I go back to the original color, because I don't want to contaminate that yellow by having orange on my brush and then going into the yellow. So take your time, rinse your brush in between each time. Now I'm going to grab some orange and red, mix that in my lid. This lid is made for that. It even has some little dividers so you can kind of keep your colors separate if you want. I'm grabbing some red, violet, working along the edges and then filling in. And using the paper towel just to make sure that my brush is clean in between, and also just to kind of dry it off so I don't have too much water. I want these colors to be vibrant, and if you use too much water, they're going to get really, really watered down and be kind of transparent. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little break, wash my water before going in with some shades. So if you wanted to do this with acrylic, this next ring you could do with white and the color. But I'm going to do it with just the smallest amount of black, just like touch my brush into the black and then add it so it hardly changes the color, but just enough to darken it, but that you could still see the vibrancy. So just a little bit of black, rinse my brush so I don't contaminate that orange. And notice that I'm always skipping a space because I want to make sure that the colors do not bleed and they have a little bit of time to dry in between. So a little bit of black, and now I'm going to grab some red. Okay, so you guys want to keep working, skipping one each time and complete this entire ring. If you're working with acrylics, this would be your color plus white to make a tint. If you're working with watercolors, there's no white watercolor, so we are just putting the smallest amount of black for this whole section here, just to darken up the color just a little bit. I'm using my pinky as kind of a rest because if you guys saw in the beginning, I kind of smudged that red and I don't want to do that again. So I put my pinky down places where I don't have paint and it kind of holds the rest of my hand off the paper a little bit. I'm also holding my brush farther back, so I have this like light control, and at an angle, so I have more of the bristles are touching the paper so that I can work quickly. If I was doing a lot of fine detail, I can have my brush more upright so that only the very tip of it is touching the paper, but in this case I want to go quick. So I'm going to finish off all those in between ones. I waited a little while for them to dry. And now I'm going in with a lot more black to really change the color and make it a lot darker. And focus on getting that detail in those really, really small spaces. When you're completely done, take your paper towel, which is kind of wet or damp at this point, and use it to wipe all the paint off the lid. Close up, clean up, and you're done. Hope you had fun.